Got you.
Yes, sir.
Good
All
stuff.
right.
Good stuff.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. So, number one, let me just do this introduction. What's up, guys? I am currently working on something I've been working on in the back end all week, which is a another alternative to a wholesale website with in regards to items, yes, but also repair parts for people that want to start to actually make money repairing. So I'm working on that. You guys will literally be seeing me do the rest of this process live. I was able to do a lot this morning, but um, I have a special guest, the Red Emperor, on. He's going to ask me a few questions that I am sure, 100% sure, honestly, that are going to be very intriguing, but also other people may have the same questions as well. So I'm going to give you the floor, and you ask me the questions, and I'm answering.
No worries, man. Cool to hear about the repair tool, not repair tools, but be able to do repair part
Yeah,
aspect.
yeah,
That's going to be awesome, especially when we come across those cracked screens or whatever. I know I've personally kind of been considering either starting to work with a wholesale repair guy locally or learning how to do some
repairs.
screens and backlash myself for whenever when I come across C and D grade stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. It's definitely interesting. It's been I have been out of the repair game for a while. Just because it's not fun at all for me. I know how to repair and everything, but it's a high intense, stressful thing at times because you're not in control if that makes sense, you know. Um, so and what I mean
in
by
in what
that,
in what in what in what respect can you unpack that a little bit?
yeah, yeah. So prime example, my car got broken into. I needed a new screen, right?
Right,
So
right, right. I'm really
so
sorry about that again, by the way, brother.
oh yeah, no problem, man. It happens. I'm happy that it did happen because it taught me some things. But um, it happening, I had to actually repair my whole phone, and I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. I'll repair it. So I went to one of my guys. I got my screen, as you guys should know. The iPhone. Um, I have the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I don't have the 15. I have the 14. So the
Right.
iPhone 14, the screen is usually like 300, 275. I was able
Mm-hmm.
to get the screen for like 190,
Oh wow.
180. Yeah.
Oh
So
wow.
I got that
Now is
screen.
it
Go ahead.
I'm assuming it was an aftermarket screen, or did you actually get a connection to where you can get like Apple like
Yeah. So at first, what I'm going to give everybody access to when it comes to repair screens is I'm going to give you guys access to, um, what is it called? Like OEM screens, like not Apple screens. But I
right,
do,
but still quality, yeah.
yeah. But what I do have, so the screen that I have on my, what I had on my phone was a refurbished screen. So what I found out
Mm-hmm.
is when it comes to like phone repairs now with these upgraded models, is that the phone screens come in two sections. Basically, it is a like OEM lower grade phone model, and then you have the refurbished, which is an Apple screen, just refurbished. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so the one I got was refurbished, but those really do cost a lot of money, wholesale. Like they
I
cost
mean,
a lot of money.
and my understanding from the limited conversations I've had with some repair techs is that refurbishing glass on an Apple original screen is quite a process, from what I understand.
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't refurbish them, but I've heard that, and that's probably why they cost so much because they cost
Yeah.
like a lot of money. I'm talking about almost $300, $400, and that's wholesale. So like for me,
Right, right. And from what my understanding, the process is quite involved. I mean, you got to transfer the Touch ID screen over.
yeah,
You got to deal with the swapping over the front face camera so where it still has Face ID, all that stuff.
that's
True Tone,
ridiculous.
etc.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts.
I wouldn't be interested in like learning how to do that. Yeah,
Yeah, I definitely would find somebody who knew the business, so to speak, and be like, hey, let's work together, kind of thing. If I was going to do something like that.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But yeah, so that is coming. That should be up and running. Oh man, that should be up and running today, by like 8 p.m. So yeah,
Cool.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, refurbishing feels like I think I heard one of the guys that I'd talked to briefly say if you're going to do refurbishing, it's something that you have to focus on to make it make sense if that,
Yeah,
because otherwise your attention's too divided. You got to stick with just doing that to make the money, so to speak.
right, right. And again, like refurbishing is profitable, guys. I'm not saying that it's not. It's very, very profitable. But you have to know your place, right? And I know my place. My place is not refurbishing, and I know that. You know, I know that.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. I think if I ever get into it, it's going to be minor stuff, aftermarket stuff. I don't want to do refurbing. Otherwise, I already know somebody who's really good at tech work. I
Yeah,
would probably try to develop a relationship with her and see if she'd be willing to, do
yeah.
do that at some sort of special price point, so to speak. So,
No, yeah, that makes sense. Makes
yeah.
complete sense. So what?
On the off chance I ever do get that relationship built up and you need refurb work, let me know. I'll hook you up.
Oh yeah, no, I got you, man. We'll eat for sure. I definitely got
Yeah.
you. Definitely got you.
In the immortal words of Pete's Dragon, money, money, money by the pound.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so
So,
boom. But yeah, so what were the questions that you were saying that you had to kick us
yeah.
off and get us started?
On a highlight note, before we get into the question, number one, I don't know if you saw my text last night, but I ended up selling a earpod with lightning connector.
Okay. Okay.
So I'll if possible, I'll have you send me an invoice, so I can go ahead and pay it and ship you the
Yeah, I'll ship
labels
you
so
the
that it
invoice.
can hopefully go out early next week.
Yeah, I'll email you the invoice and we'll
No
go from
problem.
there. So yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. I'm really happy to hear that. I really
Yeah,
am.
it's starting to trickle in. Admittedly, to this week's been a little crazy, so I know this weekend I need to spend some time, sitting down on my Mercari and kind of going through it and doing some searches for sold items, to see what's selling and then try to replicate those kinds of listings to see if I can get some more sales, etc.
Yeah, cause
Because this is the what last time I sold one. I think I sold that charge Bach battery. What, like Wednesday? I want to say,
yeah, I
and
believe so.
then this earpods sold yesterday. So just right around a week apart. So we actually had. I haven't had any kind of consistency so far from Mercari. So to have one sale each week was kind of nice.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That is awesome. And
Yeah.
again, like I try to tell people, it takes time. But also like I was having a little chat with some people I was playing basketball with the other day, and we were sitting down talking. And the biggest thing when it comes to success, right, is execution. And the hardest thing to achieve and do is execute because sometimes we don't see the result for the hard work that we put in. And I'm just happy that you're seeing some results, and I'm sure that the success is going to continue to come as long as you don't give up. That
Yeah, I
is
don't think I don't think the execution is the hard part personally. I think it's the consistency and the systematization, as it
well
were.
that's the execution is making the
Yeah.
consistency because you have to actually do it. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the consistency. Yeah.
cuz executing once is easy. Keeping it going repetitiously.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mean, doing hard work, that's sort of kind of just listing, but executing is being consistent at the skill set that you've achieved. So
Right.
executing, like, and that's what a lot of people, like a lot of people I see and talk to, they have a hard time executing consistently, like you said. So I'll say that consistently executing is hard for some people. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It goes back to what was that one I don't know. I'm trying to remember how they said it, but what gets focused upon is what gets managed.
mm, mm.
Something to that effect.
You want to know
If you
something
don't
too?
what?
Um, one of my guys that actually watches me, and we talk often. He gave you a compliment from the last time we were live. A
Oh,
lot
black
of
sheep?
no, 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 no.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people that there's people that watch me. They said that that metaphor you gave, it was a metaphor basically about carrying
Oh, the
somebody's stuff.
Zen?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
impacted a lot of people. A lot of people actually. Just believe it or not,
Yeah.
that was a lot of people actually resonated with that. So that was awesome,
Yeah,
man.
that was I believe it or not, I read that book when I was about 13 or 14, but that lesson stuck with me and I'm 46 now and
Yeah,
I will not blow sunshine up people's backside and suggest that it's not easy for me to let go of stuff
yeah.
sometimes.
No, yeah,
Um
that was good.
but I try, um I try not to let it rule me if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I, I find it very difficult to forgive per se, but I try not to obsess to let it run my life.
Yeah.
Um, and there are admittedly times where it bothers people or disturbs people because I know in the past I've had people that have either betrayed and or done me wrong, so to speak, and I inherited this from my father. I've always had the ability when somebody has wronged me deeply, I have the ability to cut them off utterly, and as far as I'm concerned, like they're dead to me,
Yeah. No,
you know?
yeah. I have a similar methodology, but
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
it's all about just realizing that
Yeah. Try not to
forgiveness
let it
is
run you
key.
though, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. So kind of what my question was is you've answered it, but part of the problem is it can be very difficult sometimes when it comes to the buyer list. Was kind of what my question centered around.
Okay.
Because I know that the buyer list is especially for like the 13, 14, and 15 models is incredibly advantageous um, because of the fact that it gives such good ideas of what the market is valued at.
Yeah.
The difficulty can be whether you're dealing in used and or new is like for example, I'll just pluck a phone out of air, so to speak here. Let's use your phone. Let's
Hmm.
say that I'm going to be looking on OfferUp or Facebook Marketplace, and I come across somebody who's trying to sell a 14 Pro Max, 128 gigabyte. Um, and it's a fairly recent phone, so let's go with the idea that it's probably in pretty good condition. So it's not necessarily in the box, etc., but it's well cared for, so it's B grade.
Hmm.
Um, I know I know that the current buyers list says that those are going for 520. Uh, I'm assuming you update it. I know you were saying something about updating it here a day or so ago, I believe.
Uh huh.
Um, and I also know that that's not necessarily what the final price point is. That's what the market value is, and it could vary very much as far as what offer I'll actually get for
Hmm.
those or for that phone. I
Yeah.
guess what I'm asking is like when you're looking on OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace, etc.
Okay.
Um, in the example that I used, um, what's your strategy as far as, for example, let's say you find first of all, let's say you find a locked versus an unlocked phone, same model.
Hmm.
Um, what's your
I'm looking to
model?
buy, right? I'm looking to buy it, correct?
You're looking to pick it up and flip it, yeah,
Okay.
presumably. Either Like, what's your model? What's your primary model and exit strategy as far as liquidating that phone the majority of the time? Like, do you typically go to, because I know the 14s and the 15s with the fact that it's got an eSIM makes it a little screwier. So
Hmm.
maybe we could do an exam. Maybe we could do an example, after this with maybe a 13 Pro Max.
Yeah.
But what's your model as far as like say you find say you find a 14 Pro Max unlocked first of all, and it's in B grade condition. I'm assuming you're going to try to get it for no more than 4.5. Yes.
Um, so if I find a 14 Pro Max B grade, um, I automatically assume every 14 Pro Max that doesn't have a box is B grade. So
Right.
what I would do is 520 minus 60, so that's 460, right? So
Oh, you're
for
going 60. Okay. Okay. I was
yeah,
thinking you were
that's
going 70. Okay.
yeah. Well, you could use this with any type, any. It's all up to your discretion, right? But I usually do 60. So
Can
460
I
would be.
can I can I unpack that a little bit
Go
insofar
ahead.
as what's the thought process as far as that specific number and what's made you reach that decision, so to speak?
Because it always works for me. Um,
Okay.
if it works for me,
You
I
just
sort of kind of I tend to not change it. But go ahead.
okay.
I'm listening. Oh, you
Oh,
done?
no,
Okay.
I was just trying to ask as far as the 60 price point model, if you have found on average when you're going with the 60 price point model, because I'm assuming, on the majority of phones when you sell it, you're getting well more than $60. So that's kind of why I was trying to um, get some insight as to why you went for that $60 target, if
That
that
is
makes
true.
sense.
That is true. So that's a good point. So when I do the when I do go to 60, um,
Mm-hmm.
9 times out of 10 I get more than 60. I usually never just get 60 ever, but I'm okay if I do. But I usually don't. Now I usually get more. I'm usually looking at 100 to 120. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I've got more, but I tend to not want to have too good to be true deal anymore. Ever since me being
Ever
so
since the 15s.
yeah, so I sort of
Yeah.
kind of tend to like really just stay in my lane with the pricing. Um, now what I
Quick
would do.
question.
Mm-hmm.
When you said you're making 120 on average, that's assuming you're taking a $60 under, and then the buyers are buying it for that much more,
So yeah,
typically.
that's what I was about to say. So
Okay.
typically, yeah, it would be the buyers or okay, because like I keep trying to tell you guys, I don't. So when I developed this price list, it wasn't me developing it to say sell every phone to buyers. What it was is at least you know the market value of phones. Because if you go on a price list like Atlas and you determine the market value to be what they say, they're only giving you that market value on used devices based upon what their evaluation is. They don't have multiple parties weighing in on it. So it's not technically market value, right? That's not what the value of the market is. That is the value of the refurbished market that they are implementing with their price list.
Right.
Now,
That's basically what they figured out, that they can buy it for and still sell it for a profit once it's refurbished. I got you.
yeah, 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 yep. So
And believe it or not, back market is pretty much the same beast, so to speak.
yeah, so when it comes to being able, got that connection. Okay, when it comes to being able to price and well, not price, but evaluate it, I usually say, okay, I'm going by the buyer's price list every single time I do a transaction. Once I get the phone physically in my hand, what I do, even if it's an eSIM device, I always list it up on all of the platforms, OfferUp, Facebook Marketplace. It just took me. Well, I'll stay with this example and then I'll give you the other one. So what I would do is I would wait.
You've never listed on Swappa then, or just
I
because you don't
don't
want to
know.
deal with the shipping, or
No, I don't deal with swapping now. So I hear a lot of
okay.
people say good things about Swapper, but me personally, I just know myself and I know what I'm willing to deal with and what I'm not, and it makes me feel uncomfortable. So I don't
That's
usually
fair.
do it. I usually don't do it, but I wouldn't knock it, because I hear a lot of good things about it.
Yeah, everybody's got their own groove for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what I would do is I would put it on OfferUp because I'm more so like a trust guy. Like I don't like to do deals shipping wise a lot. I'm starting to realize that I like to get the money right away, and if I am doing a deal shipping wise, I want to make sure it's a buyer that I have a connection with.
Hmm.
Swapper is more so I'm dealing with too many people. That's what I think it is. But anyway, so what I
Yeah, and
would
see,
just
my situation's a little different because I don't have as easy of a local market, to drop off to. I have to deal with shipping more typically.
mm-hmm. So
So,
after I get that device, right?
hmm
What I would do is I would list it. I would wait for about 4 to 5 days to see if it's because I'm of course getting hits and people are talking to me, of course, but
hmm
I'm more so of trying to get people to buy it $20 to $30 higher than what the buyer's offering. I never so I send it
so
the
hype so hypothetically, if you picked that up for 460, like we said, you're trying to flip it on offer up for, let's say, 540, 550.
right, but first I would send the device to the buyer, like the information to the buyer. I would see what they would
Okay.
offer me. Once I see what they offer me, then I would list it on OfferUp. I would list it on Facebook Marketplace, but I would look for the person I'm expecting to get from a real person. I'm expecting to get 30 $40 higher. Um, if I don't, I won't sell it. Well, no, I'll sell it for the buyer's price. But if I can get the price that the buyer's going to pay me in person, I'll just do it. But that's sort of kind of my methodology. And if it doesn't sell, then I just ship it to the buyer.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're using the offer up or Facebook Marketplace in the interim to get, an in-person meetup and cash in your hand faster.
Yes, that's what I rather do. I rather do.
Okay.
I'd rather not sell to buyers. So that's like the biggest thing with me. I'd rather not. Like I don't care about buyers. Like I don't owe them no loyalty. They don't owe me no loyalty. They'll throw me to the wolves, and that's what I be trying to tell people. Especially with the little
Mm-hmm.
replica with the situation I had with the 15s, where the 15s were fake, right? Well, yeah, they were
Right.
fake. I didn't know that, right? But the buyers still expected me to give them money back, right? So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people were creating a riffraff because I created a reel talking about that. I said I'm not giving them the money back because they should have checked just as much as I should have. Now people were like,
Right.
"Well, Brandon, that's not right. You're gonna lose connection to the buyer and all that." And one, I didn't lose connection to the buyer because you have to understand some people are gonna try to see if they can play you. They're gonna see if you're weak minded, and I'm none of those. So what happened was they had to eat that loss because before I sell a phone to a buyer, they do the same thing we do, and the phone was sealed. All the phones were sealed, so there was no way.
Well, it comes to me, it comes down to, like you said in your video. I think you said if you had made if they had made a mistake with you, they wouldn't go out of their way to make it right with you per se. You'd have to eat it. So why shouldn't they too?
Yeah, and that's a true situation. Like that actually happened to me. Like I actually needed a phone back at one point, like really bad. Like I'm talking about really really bad, and they wouldn't give it back to me. So yeah, you're right. That I did say that, and that is a prime example. They won't give me that phone back. They wouldn't even blink.
Yeah,
they would.
it's a two-way street.
Yeah, exactly. It's business, and yeah, so that's sort of kind of why I really love selling to people in person. It just took me a week and a half to sell um, 6 iPhone 13s sealed in a box, T-Mobile. Now the reason I waited that long was because I got $400 for each 13. 400. That is a great profit because the buyer was only willing to pay me like think they quoted me at like three something, and I didn't like that price. Like I don't even like the prices the buyers give me sometimes, but
Sure.
it's the market value that I was able to get the phones at a cheaper price because I knew the market value, and then I was able to make more profit. So
Okay.
that's sort of kind of how I use that price list. I use the
Okay.
buyer's price list to my advantage more so. Like this is really a tool I use to determine the market. That's really all it really is. Yep.
Okay. Okay. So let me ask you this kind of a final question about the 14 Pro Max situation example.
Yeah.
Have you had, whether you're dealing with unlocked, well, unlocked, it's obviously not such a big deal, but if you were selling, for example, like let's say you picked up a 14 Pro Max 128 that was locked and you picked it up for, what would it be, 260?
Mhm.
And you maybe you sold it locally for 340, 350 versus what the buyers, uh maybe the buyers are offering you, I don't know, 340, and let's say you sell it for 360 locally.
Mhm.
um what has been your experience as far as being flipping those locally versus dealing with the buyers insofar as the eSIM complication for the 14s and 15s, or do you just tend to steer away from dealing in the locked phones for the 14 and 15 in that fashion? Is that, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. So what I do is I go and I list these phones on these platforms, right? And when
Offer
I
up in Facebook.
yep, and I tell them that it's locked. That's all I do.
Okay.
I tell them
Okay.
it's locked, and they buy it. They buy it, and I've
Okay.
never ever in my life heard anybody say anything,
Okay.
or try to get
So
a
you're basically approaching it from a perspective of, hey, I've told you what's going on, so you're buying it knowing this, etc.
yes, cutthroat business. Yeah, at that point, because even the 13s that I just sold, all of them were eSIM activated. All of them.
13s?
Yeah, 13s could be eSIM activated. Yep.
Oh man, that's sad.
Yeah.
I like the old 15s, or excuse me, the old 13s.
But the beautiful thing about it is it doesn't really matter. Like they still took it, and um what happens is you can deactivate. So what happened is I think a lot of either Apple or the cell phone companies started to realize they were losing business. So a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
phones now inside the phone you can deactivate the eSIM. So
Oh.
if that person does choose to deactivate that eSIM, but the IMEI is still going to pop up when you call AT&T or you call T-Mobile, they're going to ask you first before anything. They're going to ask you for the IMEI before the eSIM. When they do, they're going to pull that up and they're going to see that it was on another account. Whether that rep
Mm-hmm.
decides to say something, that's their choice. But a lot of the people over the phone, they don't say anything. The reason I know is because I just had this happen because I just needed to activate my eSIMs literally before I got on live. That's what was taking me a bit long. Um,
Oh,
and
for your phones that
yeah,
got damaged during
yeah,
the car thing. Got
yeah,
you.
and they activated it. So they didn't ask me anything about my other phones. So hey, it is what it is. So that's how I
Okay.
approach it. I try not to complicate it. That's
Well,
all.
that's definitely a potential game changer for me because frankly, anytime I dealt with a 14 or 15 based on previous conversations that we had, because I
Hmm.
didn't realize that eSIM was, a situation where they could as readily shift it, so to speak, to deal with that, to where I was just selling every time I was dealing with 14s and 15s. I was flipping them to a buyer.
Yeah, no, yeah, you can. Again, if they don't know how to do it, then they'll complain. But well, they won't.
Right.
Probably, I can't say they complain because I didn't get any complaints. So you just never know.
Right. And
Yeah,
well, like you said, it's not like you kept them in the dark and BS'd them. You told them up front, yeah, it's a locked device. Here's what it is. Take it or leave it.
yeah. So everybody I meet with, I tend to,
I wouldn't I wouldn't say that's cutthroat personally. That's being honest.
Yeah, getting straight to the chase. That's literally what I mean. Like when I meet with
Yeah.
people, I try to just get straight to the point. I don't try to do any like no recreational talk at first because I want them to know what they're getting because that could be a referral for somebody they know in their family. They might hit you up and be like, "Hey, do you have any more phones?" Things of that nature.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. I will say something that I've been working with my gal down in SAC, and I'm taking this to heart. Um, I've devised a PDF of a checklist, um, to where it goes through every single aspect on a phone, so that it creates like it creates a checklist so that when you're doing the inspection process, you don't have to think. You're simply going through the motion, so to speak, and it becomes unconscious habit, versus having to sit there and deliberately think about every step, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
No, yeah, it does.
Um, so that when you're done going through the step process, number one, it expedites the inspection process, so you get through the process much quicker.
Yeah.
Um, Number two, it tries to prevent you from forgetting a step that you might not have thought of, etc. And number three, um, you know, like you said, when you're meeting with somebody, it allows her to ask, "Oh, hey, do you have any other devices?" And have a little bit of small talk, so to speak, to potentially deepen the relationship, potentially get return business, return devices, and maybe even get referrals, etc.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. No, that makes
not
complete sense.
not necessarily having a 15-minute BS session. I mean, if they want to take it that way after the business is concluded, that's up to them, of course. But
Yeah. Yeah. Just exactly. No, that makes sense,
yeah,
and that checklist is going to come in handy, especially when you're doing what I tell a lot of people to do, which is outsource your phone flipping. If you want to build your phone flipping business, stop trying to do it by yourself.
yeah, yeah, leverage and scale. Yeah,
Yeah, leverage and
exactly.
scale. Yeah,
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 it's
that.
I'm
But
I'm definitely trying to take to heart some of the lessons I'm learning from practicing setting up my wife's business, because they teach how to hire people that already know to do, because she started a home cleaning business,
mm-hmm.
and one of the things they discuss is finding home cleaners who already have been in the business for a couple years, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and know what they're doing, but they're
Yeah,
small time and they don't necessarily know what the hell they're doing from a large 50,000 foot view, so to speak, as far as promoting themselves and getting more business, etc.
yeah,
So you're basically hitching yourself to their wagon, so to speak, assuming they're doing good work, and they're doing the work for you, and you're promoting them, and you're splitting the money. So I've been thinking about looking at that model, and I'm like, I wonder if this kind of model, and they do background checks in the whole 9 yards. So I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, how could I potentially institute this model, you know, in multiple areas and cities, potentially working with other people that want to get into flipping, because they want to get into it, but they don't know where to start, and they're just bouncing around YouTube, and they don't really know what the f to do, you know,
exactly.
and uh, and work together, because I've been in this for about a year, and I've made a lot of stupid mistakes, and I can show them the shortcuts so they're not doing so much dumb shit.
No, yeah, that makes sense, and that's where the bread and the butter is. That's where you start making money. Like right now, somebody's phone flipping
Yeah.
for me right now. Um, Meeting up with somebody, and I didn't find that person. You know, they found them.
Hmm.
So um, that's how you build your
Good stuff.
business. You know that's really
Good
how you
stuff.
do it. Yeah,
Good stuff. Good
because
stuff.
people want to know how to. I mean, and that's where a lot of the courses they don't tell you because a lot of phone flippers they make it seem like this is a lucrative thing. It's lucrative when you have a team. That's
Right,
when it's
and
lucrative.
systematize.
Yeah, yep. That's when it's
Yeah.
lucrative.
Yeah, because if you're doing it all yourself, I mean, there's only so many people a day you can meet with. There's only so
Exactly.
many people you can reach out to on OfferUp and Facebook,
Yeah.
you know, et cetera, et cetera. I'm assuming, I'm pretty sure, I mean, I'm sure that you could probably get to a number of like 2 to 5K by yourself. But if you really want to start getting up to where, you're potentially making, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10K a month, perhaps,
Yeah.
you're definitely going to want to start, you know, outsourcing and working with people, as far as being able to leverage your time and systematize things.
Yep. Yep. That's the number one lesson I've learned when I first became an entrepreneur is delegation.
Yeah,
Delegation is
yeah,
key. Yep.
yeah. And they don't even necessarily have to be exceptional. They just have to be adequate. And
Yep.
I think everybody gets wrapped up on that idea of they have to be as good as you. They don't have to
No.
be as good as you. They just have to be decent at it.
And it tells a lot about you if you are able to actually get somebody to be that way, to be adequate. It takes a
Right.
skill to make others better. You see
Right,
what I'm
because
saying?
me personally, I'm a perfectionist. I obsess over stuff, so I'm like, no, don't do it that way. Don't do it that way. Don't do it that way.
Yeah. No, yeah. It happens.
That's that's one of the things I've been working with my gal down in Sacramento is I have like a whole drive, a whole folder in my Google Drive where everything like page to page is all interlinked,
Mm-hmm.
if you know what I'm saying.
Hyperlink.
And yeah, hyperlinks, and every single step of the process, as far as you know the process as we've been going through, I've been like refining and perfecting all those little Google Docs, explaining everything in a meticulous amount of detail,
Yes.
so that she doesn't have to think, so that it's just, like I heard somebody say on YouTube at one point, keep it stupid simple.
Yeah. Because
You know?
I'm gonna tell you this: when people playing with your money, they don't think as hard as they would if it was yours. I mean, if it was theirs. That's what I've
Right,
learned.
right.
I've learned that the hard way. I learned that
Yeah,
very, very early.
yeah. Keep it stupid simple. And the other thing I've heard somebody say is, when you're meeting up with people to buy their phone, you don't necessarily want to come across as super knowledgeable. You just want to come across as kind of an average guy who wants to meet up and buy their phone. But when you go to meet and buy the phone, you want to know what the hell you're doing, and nail it, so to speak,
Yeah.
and not make stupid mistakes.
Yeah, of course, and that is
Yeah.
true. That's true.
You know.
Phone flipping is easy, man. It's these small details that really matter.
Yeah,
Really matter.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I'm glad that I'm glad if you definitely should be proud of yourself because of, and every time I talk to you, I try to give you your flowers, as you know, because you deserve them. Not only that, you are coming a long way. You're coming a long way, and you're seeing things clear, and it takes a long time for people to get to that point. It takes patience. It takes failure, and repetition. And you definitely have figured that out. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, the hardest thing for me, I think, was seeing the bigger picture, because when you first start this business,
Mm-hmm.
in the back of your head, you're thinking, okay, this is kind of like thrifting, basically. And in the back of your head, you're thinking, this is thrifting. I
Yeah.
find people on OfferUp or Marketplace. I know what these people are going to pay me, so I try to negotiate to buy it for that lower price point, and then I flip it to them, and it's like, finding a treasure hunt, so to speak. And
Yeah.
that's a very simplistic approach of it.
Yeah.
But after you've been in this for 6 months or a year, I mean, hopefully at that point, I mean, some people may take longer, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Hopefully, once you've been in this for 6 months or a year, you start to realize, hey, number one, I can't do this all by myself, and number two, I need to systematize and make everything effectively kind of an assembly line style build so that it becomes more repetitious and easier so that it can scale and I can actually, work with people to help grow this and not just do the whole thrift quote unquote model, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. Thrifting and this is it's similar in some sense, but one thing about thrifting, and I just made a video about this. Thrifting can thrifting is cool. Yeah, I have nothing against thrifting because um, I have an audience of people that thrift, so I don't want to come across like I have any issue with that. But
Oh, me, not
yeah, yeah,
myself either. The only thing,
yeah,
the
yeah.
only thing that's a bummer about thrifting versus flipping electronic devices is you can't always count on the same device, the same
Exactly.
items, etc. You have to scrounge for items, whereas just about everybody has a freaking Android or an iPhone.
You just said exactly what I was going to say. That's the difference
Yeah,
between thrifting and this. That's why I don't thrift. That's why
yeah,
I don't do that. I don't thrift not because it's not profitable, but it's not consistent. And
right.
one thing I want to do and consistently do is be indulged in consistent um, profit.
Right.
Because I've thrifted before, and thrifting gets you some bread, it gets you some money, but it's disappointing when you get that
Yeah.
money and you can't replicate it.
I feel I feel like it works in spikes. Like you
Yes.
go out and
Yep.
you find a lot of stuff and you
Yes.
set it all up and it sells off.
Yep.
Um it's almost like your electronic reselling method, except you don't have a consistent provider. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Um
Exactly.
so you have to wait with those dry periods where you're looking around furtively, so to speak, going, okay, where am I going to find my next thing? Where am I going to find my next, stuffs, etc.
Yeah, and that prolongs, in my opinion, it prolongs your productivity. Because so um, what a lot of people that thrift, what they end up doing to try and get into the reselling lane is they'll start to buy vendor lists, and vendor lists are like lists that have hyperlinks to suppliers, but they don't
Break that
realize
down for me. Are we talking about vendor lists for buying electronics now?
anything. They have vendor lists for
Okay.
anything. So,
Okay.
but the vendor lists are directing you to places like AliExpress, Alibaba, places you can find on your own, basically, literally.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and what I say to that is vendor lists are interesting because if you're somebody that is trying to make this a business, you got to
Mhm.
understand supply and demand. I can't purchase products that I know everybody has. I can't because then the area
Right.
becomes saturated. You get what I'm saying?
Right. There's no scarcity.
It's no scarcity, and that then
What's the
creates
place?
false expectations, false
The beer. What is it called?
everything. Like you just have to be able
What
to
is it?
get products that people
What is
want
it?
or don't have. Don't reach for vendors list too fast because you'll start to just get the same links that other people already have, and then you'll just be
Right.
out of luck.
It's
You
it's
know?
a bal- it's a balancing act of you're in the same ocean with everybody else,
Yeah.
versus you're in a small pond and you're scrounging for every bit of stuff that you can find like thrifters do, and it's hard to always find consistent stuff. So it's
Yeah.
you got to find that middle ground.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. And that's the key. And once you find that ground, you good. You Gucci. But
Hmm.
definitely don't get yourselves caught up in stuff like that. Don't be too desperate to make money. Like I don't do this to make money. I do it really because I do enjoy it, and I also do it because I think I don't want to say I don't do it to make money. That sounds
Yeah,
ignorant.
that's I was gonna say.
Yeah,
I don't get me wrong. I enjoy it as much as you do because to me it's kind of like to me flipping has a feel like on Saturday mornings when you were a kid, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
when you went out on Saturday mornings, and I don't know if you've ever been garage sailing,
Yep.
but you go garage sailing and you see something really cool, and it's like, oh, that's way less than it normally is,
Yep.
and it's like finding a treasure.
And you get them butterflies in your stomach, and you're like, "Oh man, yes, I got to steal," and it feels so good. I
Yeah,
agree.
it's a dopamine hit for sure.
Yeah, I agree. That definitely is the case. It's not that I don't. It's not that I don't do it for money. I think that I do it. I like phone flipping because phone flipping really gives you an opportunity to be a provider. It gives you an opportunity to provide people with things they need, things they can't get. That is
Hmm.
very powerful. Like, it's powerful to be able to provide people with things that they have that's scarce in the area. You know,
Hmm.
so that's sort of kind of where I think that I get the most enjoyment out of phone flipping. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I,
Um,
I, I won't lie. I like the money, but I like the dopamine hits too, for sure. And
yeah.
the fact, the fact that I can, the fact that I can help serve people insofar as I can give them cash for something that they may not see much value in anymore because they're not using it anymore, etc. And
Hmm.
potentially give it a new home where somebody else is going to treasure it, like it, appreciate it, etc. Is a secondary factor too, for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely, and it all works out in the long run. Um, you just really have to. I think the most people I see successful in this is people that just don't quit. I'm gonna be honest. Like, that's really all it really is. Is if you hold on for long enough, you'll be alright. You'll be okay. You know, a lot of people hold
Hmm.
on to the jobs they hate, and a lot of people hold on and keep going and showing up to work. Why can't you show up for your own self, even though it's not working out for you? Figure out how to make it work. Like, we have to normalize not giving up on ourselves, and that's
Yeah.
the truth, because I've been given up on by other people, but I never gave up on myself. Never
Well,
give up on
part,
yourself.
part of the psychology too is, as human beings, we're trained to avoid fear and pain as much as possible. So it's hard to
Mm,
embrace. It's so hard to embrace that.
yeah, never thought of that.
Even even if I've been learning a lot about neuro emotional linguistic program lately,
Yeah.
particularly as it relates to sales,
Okay.
because let's face it, every single time you're reaching out to somebody on marketplace, you may not be selling them something, but you are selling yourself, so to speak, as far as buying the phone.
Mm,
um
mm,
so I've been learning about that, and believe it or not, before I was telling you that my gal down in Sacs car went down, I was testing the theory out, and a combination of OfferUp and Marketplace. Excuse me, this was all OfferUp, believe it or not, because on a higher note, I just got my Facebook Marketplace access restored, so I'm
oh,
I'm
nice.
stoked about that. Yeah,
Nice.
so I'll be able to reach out on OfferUp and Facebook, because in SAC I find that OfferUp is active, but Facebook is still much more active.
Okay.
Um, but anyway, what I was saying is I reached out on OfferUp to about 30, 35 people, trying to negotiate devices, etc.
Yeah.
And I was able to arrange meetings with, no, it was 30 people, excuse me. I was able to arrange meetups with 6 people before I found out that her car was down, which really pissed me off.
Yeah.
Um, that was my stupidity for not checking to make sure she could, meet with people. But I was I looked at it, on a numbers basis, and I was like, wow, six people out of 30. That's 20% response. That's good.
Exactly. Exactly. And let's mention it. You was frustrated at first. You were very I think, from my assumption, you were very not you weren't you were just frustrated. I think you got overwhelmed of the lack of results. And
Right.
the beautiful thing, the reason I say that, right, is not to bring you back to that place. Well, I say it because it is awesome that you were at that place and then you found out
Right.
how to make it work for you. Like that
Right.
to me is like that's I like that part about this. Like that's what I like. That's what I love, I would say. Because I love the problem solving aspect of it. You know, like that to me, that brings it a dopamine as well. Because knowing that something is not going right, but it's going right for others, to me, it makes me feel like okay, challenge accepted. Let me go out and let me go make this happen. You know, and when I get that
Yeah.
result, it's like boom, told you.
It, it
You know what I mean?
it comes down to me for kind of a combination of things. When something's not working and I start to get really frustrated, um, depending on how frustrated I am, I might just step back momentarily, look at it, and say, okay, I need to try this differently. Or I might have to step away for a little, like a day or so, because if I get frustrated, I start to sabotage myself because I'm in a negative headspace, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Uh, but for me, it doesn't necessarily come down to a dopamine hit, so to speak, so much as it does. I'm of the opinion that I'm not going to let this beat me, so to speak, if that makes sense. I refuse to let this beat me. I can figure this out. Um, the thing that was frustrating me, I think, was when I was getting nowhere as far as negotiations on offer up and marketplace, etc. Was when I was following your framework, based upon kind of watching you and your videos. Uh, I was trying to follow that framework, and it didn't seem to be resonating and working for me very well. So I shifted. I shifted my approach, my framework, so to speak, into like I said, I shifted my framework into a neuro emotional linguistic aspect to where a lot of times where I'm reaching out to these people, I'm trying to figure out their pain, and I'm trying to figure out why they're trying to get rid of this phone, etc. And I'm trying to you know figure out via a series of questions, why they're trying to get rid of this phone so that I can solve their problem, and look at it from that way. Because I feel like I feel like the framework that I was using when I was emulating your approach kind of had more of a kind of a numbers game aspect to it, if that makes any sense, as far as having to go through x number of potential leads
1 second,
before I was
Justin.
getting any.
Go, I'm
Oh,
listening. Go ahead.
I was saying I felt like I was having to go through a number of leads, so to speak, before I was getting any kind of result, so to speak. Versus on this approach, I'm just trying to figure out people's pain and how I can help them per se. And it seems like that aspect of it is resonating and flows much more effectively for me, to where a lot of times I'm getting people that are like, "Oh, okay, okay, we can meet up. I'll take blah blah blah."
So I think and again, we always go back and forth on this part because when you say you tried my approach, you can't really try my approach unless you're trying to copy word for word. My approach is
Yes,
more
yes,
okay. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. You never want to
For my,
copy any. You never want to copy anybody's word for word and think that you can replicate what they do in sales, unless which we went back and forth about as well. It is a
that
script.
that's
Now,
that that
give
that
me a
that's
second.
that's why I was referencing it as framework. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when it gets to that point, right? What I realize is what you're talking about when you're saying you're trying to figure out somebody's pain points. That is a part of sales. That's a part of sales is getting to know someone, getting personal. Um, like prime example, if you are or have ever been a sales rep, when somebody walks into a situation or anywhere, you want to get personal. You want to start to understand exactly what they are going through so that you can then perform or load up on your bullet points. So when it comes to phone flipping and in the DM, it's not necessarily a numbers game. It's a I am going to react to what you say, and I'm going to be able to then in return put everything together.
When you say you, are you talking about the person selling the phone, or you yourself reaching out?
I'm talking about when I'm in the DMs and I'm making an offer to somebody, I don't just go and just say something and expect for it to convert. What I do is, if I'm having a normal conversation with anybody and I'm trying to buy something from them, trying to negotiate with them, it's the art of negotiation. When I'm trying to negotiate with anyone, okay, because that's what sales is at the first step, is negotiating with that person with the value that you're either trying to sell or you're trying to get from that person. You're trying to negotiate. When I'm trying to negotiate with someone, the most important thing is to get personal. It is to understand how you can capitalize off of what you can extract from that individual. So I'm complimenting you on what you're saying as far as learning their pain points. That may work for you because learning their pain points gives you a form of bullet points to be able to override objections, also to become a, how can I say it, so you can become relatable. It's so many different ways to attack it, but when you put it in the manner of, when I try to I get what you're saying when you say, when I try to perform it the way that you perform it, Brandon, it seems like a numbers game. So that would be law of averages, which is another sales method, which law of averages is basically the more people you hit, the more conversions you get. But
Exactly.
That's not what phone flipping is always for everybody. So I agree with that.
Right.
Sometimes you have to, like you said, you have to talk to the people. You have to understand, what makes you sell the device, and etc. Because you're literally loading up points in your head to be able to now relate to that person, or to hey, you said that you didn't want to take 3:30. Okay, cool. I know that you said you are you're trying to get this out of your hands by Tuesday, and it's Monday. Just checking back in with you. Like, you start to become relatable and can now tie yourself into the other person's life. So no, that is a great point. That is a really, really good point.
And something that I heard from the gentleman that I've been studying his approaches on neuro-emotional linguistic questions and programs, so to speak, is he says, there tend to be two school of thoughts when it comes to sales, generally speaking. He said the first school of thought is, that you have to have a very tough skin, obviously, which to a certain point is certainly true. Because you can't take it, you got to try not to take it personally. Otherwise you can get incredibly discouraged very easily. But if you approach it from the aspect of law of averages, and you're going to have to talk to a number of people before you get an agreeable negotiation and sale, etc.
Yeah.
You have to have an incredible amount of mental fortitude, etc. And you have to focus upon getting through a certain number of talking to a certain number of people. Whereas the approach he's been sharing, that I've been practicing and learning, is I'm trying to elevate my quality of every single conversation, so that the quality of the conversations, you may have 100 conversations, let's say, and you close 10 or 12, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let's say if I'm working on a quality of conversations, I'm quoting him here, whereas I'm having, let's say 60 or 70 conversations, but because I'm focusing on the quality of the conversations, I'm closing 20.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. That's not the way for everybody. But that's the way that works for you. I think again, it all depends on how you are. Some people are really good at talking. Some people are really good, because when it comes to quality of a conversation, There's no way for anybody to teach you how to have quality of a conversation. That would just be in your personality. Um,
That's my gift. I'm
yeah.
good at talking to people.
Okay. So, and if that's what you're good at, then that's going to be something that you're going to be able to, build on, and that's going to be able to build that quality. But there's no way for, if somebody can't talk and they don't know how to talk, they just don't know how to have a conversation. That's something
Right.
that they would have to like really dig deep and like work on themselves for, because some people, I know some people that don't know how to talk. They're overthinkers, and they just, it doesn't roll off their tongue. It's just not something that they're good at. Can they get good at that? Yes, but they have to want to do that themselves. Um,
Right.
which is okay. Everybody, and those type of people that are not good at it, that are listening, if you're not good at having conversation, you don't need to get personal. You want to know what you need to do? You need to first dive deep into why you don't have that connection, and practice, like, talk to chairs. Like, that's what I did. Like, I wasn't always a good speaker. Now, like, I remember when I used to speak.
See, I think you're a good speaker. So
No, no, I appreciate it.
yeah.
Well, when I had low self-esteem. I was told I wasn't anything. I was told I wasn't going to be this and that. So, like, it took a while for me to learn how to speak in public and stuff, and articulate my words, and hold myself to a certain standard when I'm in front of people. And I remember, I lied to you not. I'm not trying to make this sound cool or anything, but one day I got so tired of not being able to speak, and I took all of my grandmother's chairs from her dining room table, and I pitched them all. Like, and I don't know what possessed me to do that, to be honest, but I did. And I used to just pitch the chairs, just talk to the chairs, talk to the chairs. Then I ended up talking to my friends and like saying, hey, let me say this pitch to you. I want you to try it so hard to say no. And like, I just kept challenging myself, and that's what you're gonna
Hey,
have to do, you know?
whatever system, and
Yeah,
people may think it's ridiculous, but the system worked for you. So who gives a
yeah,
shit what they think?
exactly, yeah. And that's the message out there. Whoever's listening that needs this is, what we're saying is, Andrew is, I mean, Red Emperor is showing you guys exactly what worked for him. And the beautiful thing about it is just understanding that he didn't quit, he didn't settle, and he figured it out. And you're gonna have to do the same thing. And it really takes some failing. Like, a lot of people, like Red Emperor said, it's natural for us not to want to fail. But
No,
out of those
we're afraid
failures,
of fear and pain.
yeah, and when we get it though, what I'm learning, and I learned this year really fast, that pain is literally what is going to build you. That
I
rejection builds you. Go ahead.
I got to tell you, you remember last August when we first called in, myself and Amber called in to set up Mercari automation,
Yeah.
and we were talking with you on the phone, and I think that was the first time we'd ever talked, actually. Um, I got to admit, it was kind of weird because I don't know if you've ever experienced this yourself, but I was like, I'm like, oh my God, what the F are we doing? This is scary. This is scary as shit. This is terrifying. We don't know
Yeah.
what the F we're doing. That was all going through my head,
Yeah.
and I had like this feeling in the pit of my stomach, like this is scary as shit. But simultaneously, in the back of my head, I was absolutely elated and excited at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah. And that builds. What I've realized is, like, taking those taking those risks, you get more sometimes than what you expected. Sometimes you get those connections, you get that network, you get put in certain rooms. um that's one thing about me, is I'm a very, very big risk taker. Like, I am a very big risk taker, because I've been in rooms where I took risk, and that risk that I did take changed my life. I
Right.
wouldn't even know how to phone flip. I wouldn't know how to do any of this if I didn't take a risk. So it's very important, guys, for you to just believe in yourself. Go ahead.
I got you. I got you. Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
So let me ask you this, since we've kind of covered the approach and the aspect on the 13s, 14s, and 15s. Here's kind of where my disconnect comes in as far as questions and curiosities, as it were. When we start talking about like the used, specifically in the used, because let's face it, that's the majority of what we're going to come across when we're dealing with OfferUp and Marketplace. Yeah, we're going to find wholesalers from time to time that can bring us brand new phones, etc. But for the most part, we're going to be dealing with secondhand phones. When we're dealing with 13s, 13 minis, SEs, 12 Pro Maxes, etc., etc. But and part of this, I'm sure.
To deal with.
Those are what?
Those are the easiest phones to deal with.
Those are the easier phones to deal with, but it seems like for me especially, and I know you and I have talked about this as far as markets that are, more difficult because there's more competition there. I know we've talked about the fact that Miami is incredibly rough. California, as you said, is rough. New York's pretty rough. I don't know how Philadelphia compares. I don't know whether we'd really discussed that. I imagine it's being as proximity it is to New York, it's pretty difficult.
Yep,
I have a harder time with the lower I have a harder time with the 13 base models, the 13 minis, and the 12 series, so to speak, because frankly, the market value based on the buyer's list is at such a price point that I find it incredibly challenging to be able to pick up those devices at a price point where I can be able to flip it advantageously based on the market value. I find specifically when I'm dealing with the 13 base model and below, more often than not, to be able to find and get my hands on devices, I'm having to use other buyer lists just because even though it may not be the market value per se, I can give them a better offer based on what the other buyer is going to pay me. And I don't know where every single one of the other buyer lists are located, etc., whether they're national, international, etc.
So that's what I'm trying to tell you. So go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish.
Okay, I was gonna say, but I don't know. Like for example, I'll give you an example just to make this easy. Like for example, let's say I'm trying to reach out to a iPhone 13, and well, heck, I'll make this super simple. I'll even look at OfferUp right now, and give you what I'm talking about. Let's see, iPhone 13. Like, I can't tell you when I look at, no, I don't want shipping. I want local only, dipsticks. All right, when I'm looking
Give me 1 second, Andrew. Give me 1 second.
Sure, no problem.
Hello, you still there? Anybody still there? My fault, guys. I had to do something. Oh yeah. Y'all, I'm gonna be back on